Have you ever felt like the world just isn't fair? Like you're doing everything right, following the rules, and then, out of nowhere, someone comes along and upends your life for no reason? That's exactly what happened to me. My son almost died because of an act so absurd, it felt like a nightmare. And it all started with a locked gate. It was supposed to be a quiet Sunday. My family was going about our business when, suddenly the emergency gate, a vital lifeline we used to get out of the neighborhood, was locked. No warning, no explanation, just locked. At first, I thought it was a mistake, maybe a malfunction, right? But no, this wasn't an accident, this was deliberate. And the person responsible? A Karen, a member of the HOA, one of those self-righteous rule enforcers who thinks they can control everyone just because they have a little power. The worst part? I didn't know this would be the first in a series of events that would nearly cost my son's life. And even worse, I had no idea how far I'd have to go to make things right. Stick around, because you won't believe what happened next. And trust me, when you see what I did to fix it, you'll never underestimate the power of standing up for what's right. It all started innocently enough. We had just moved into this suburban neighborhood a few months ago, looking for a peaceful, family-friendly place to settle down. The HOA seemed like just another formality, one of those things you have to deal with to keep things running smoothly. But little did we know, it was about to become a nightmare. The neighborhood had a community emergency gate, you know, the kind you're supposed to have in case of fire, accidents, or any situation where every second counts. This gate was our key to getting out of the area in an emergency, and we were told by the real estate agent that it would be accessible to all residents. Seemed like a no-brainer, right? You lock it when it's necessary, unlock it when it's not. But there was one problem. The HOA had different ideas. The first time I noticed something was wrong, I was running errands one day. I returned home with the kids to find my neighbor, Mr. Thompson, pacing in front of the gate. He looked visibly upset. When I asked him what was going on, he pointed to the lock. "It's locked again," he muttered. At first, I thought maybe it was a mistake. I had no reason to think the HOA would do something so absurd. But Mr. Thompson didn't seem to think so. "They're doing this on purpose," he said. "I've been trying to get them to fix it for weeks. They don't care." I brushed it off. Surely the HOA wouldn't intentionally put lives at risk, right? That was the beginning of my mistake. I didn't take it seriously enough, assuming it was just a minor inconvenience. But that small, seemingly insignificant act set the stage for everything that followed. What happened next? A nightmare of escalating absurdity. It wasn't just the locked gate anymore. It was everything. Fines started piling up for minor infractions. We were fined for things like leaving our trash cans out for too long and not trimming the bushes enough. And mind you, we were doing the best we could to follow the rules. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part? Every time we questioned the fines or pushed back against the HOA's ridiculous demands, the punishment got worse. There were threats, passive-aggressive notes left on our door. But things came to a head one day when my son, James, who was just 7 at the time, had a severe allergic reaction to something he ate. We had to get him to the hospital, and fast. But guess what? The emergency gate was locked again. I tried to stay calm. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe there was a reason. So, I called the HOA office, only to be told by a woman with a condescending tone, "The lock is for everyone's safety." I didn't even know what that meant. As I looked at James, clutching his throat, gasping for breath, I felt panic settle in. We couldn't get out. There was no way through. My son's life was on the line because of some petty, power-hungry bureaucrat with an agenda. And all the while, the HOA was nowhere to be found. That was just the beginning. The worst was yet to come. At that moment, something inside me snapped. I knew I had to do something, not just for my son, but for everyone else in the neighborhood who had been suffering in silence. If the HOA wanted a battle, I was ready to bring it. First step? Gathering allies. I went door to door, talking to the neighbors who'd been complaining but never quite had the courage to act. One by one, they opened up. The lock wasn't just an inconvenience, it was a liability. Families with young children, elderly residents, even pet owners were at risk. It was becoming clear. The HOA wasn't interested in safety. It was about control. Next, I set up a community meeting. The HOA would never see this coming. They thought they could get away with their behavior in the shadows. But I had a plan. We were going to demand change. I started documenting everything. Every fine, every note, every locked gate incident. I wasn't going to let them get away with any of it. At the meeting, the tension was thick. The HOA board wasn't prepared for what was coming. We had a secret weapon, the law. It turned out there were state regulations about emergency access points. Who knew? Certainly not the HOA. It was time to take them down. The showdown finally came. The HOA was called to the meeting, confronted with the evidence. One by one, residents took the stand, recounting their experiences. Then, it was my turn. I laid it all out. The HOA had endangered our lives, put my son's health at risk, and violated our rights. The room went silent. Then, I dropped the final bombshell. I had organized a petition to vote the board out of office. Over 70% of the neighborhood had signed it. The president and her cronies were out, and by the end of the day, the emergency gate was unlocked. There was a collective sigh of relief. Justice served. Looking back on the whole ordeal, I can't help but feel proud. It wasn't just about unlocking a gate. It was about standing up against entitlement and injustice. It was about making sure our community knew we wouldn't be pushed around. And let's be clear, this wasn't just a win for me. It was a win for everyone who's ever felt powerless against bureaucracy. Every person who's been ignored by the system, told to sit down and shut up. The lesson is simple. Don't let anyone tell you that you don't matter. Don't let anyone lock you out of what's rightfully yours, whether it's access to safety, fairness, or respect. If you made it to the end, comment, "Justice served." And tell me, what would you have done if you were in my shoes?